We are very excited to welcome our next speaker. I know that when I was reviewing talks for ShmooCon this year, this was one that I was excited to see that we had selected. So would everyone please give a very warm welcome to Meghan Jacquot.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. So books. Oh my God, books. I mean, just who loves books? They are amazing. There are lots of books over here. I'm Meghan Jacquot, Carpe Diem Tech as well. Super happy to be here talking with you about books. Would love for you to join one of the book clubs I'm in. Kind of think about it as like too many book clubs, too little time. How do we choose? How do we figure that out? Also a security engineer with Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute. Happy to nerd out about maturity models, resilience, etc. But that will be another thing. So we have to start with the why, right? Why would you even start a book club? Why would you join a book club? I want you to kind of look to your left, look to your right, look in front of you, look behind you. Do you know everyone around you? Do you know everyone in your 360? Or are there people you don't know around you? Whenever you go to a conference, do you meet new people? I want you to think about that sense of community, that sense of camaraderie that you feel when you're in these conferences, when you're in that mode. And then think about, some of these conferences do end, right? So we're commencing with ShmooCon. It is ending, but that doesn't mean that our sense of community has to end. Each of these conferences that we attend is a point in time, and then it ends. But we can continue building that community, and one of those ways you can do that is by joining a book club or even starting a book club. Now, it is a heavier lift to start a book club, but maybe you want to join one. So we will have some ways to join our book club, and always feel free to find me afterwards. But I really think one of the primary reasons to join a book club is sense of camaraderie, but also because we are in such a dynamic field, continuing to learn and discuss what you're learning is so powerful. You think about some of the amazing conversations that you've had just these last couple days, that you've had at other conferences, that you've had with other peers, and then magnify that by everyone being literally on the same page because you're reading the same book and discussing those things, and you get different points of view because people have different backgrounds, people have different experiences, and you're able to share all that together. So I think those are some of the really formative reasons why you might want to start or join a book club. Now, when we get into the idea of how to run a book club, you'll see a bunch of books over here, so hopefully people on that side can see, but there's many different ways to run a book club, and I run two different ones. One meets about every other month, and it's completely fiction. It's sci-fi. We meet over Discord, and we do cyberpunk novels, and we call ourselves the DEF CON Book Club, and we also meet once a year in person at DEF CON. So otherwise, it's meeting over Discord voice channels. And another book club that I do has a very different setup. We do nonfiction books paired with nonfiction narrative style. So think like a technical book, like I've got the OSINT techniques over there, paired with something more narrative like Cuckoo's Egg. So that's telling a story, but it's still nonfiction, right? So many, many different ways to do this. You could decide books a couple months ahead of time. You could decide books a year ahead of time. Same thing within running it. There are many different ways to set this up. You can do ad hoc. You can have set questions you always ask. You can have questions that are derived from the discussion, or you can decide prior to running that book session, what are the questions that I want to ask? You can have those written down. You can kind of write them as they come to you. So there are a lot of different ways. Some books have reading guides at the end, so you can borrow some questions from that as well. It just kind of depends. But these are some of the questions that one of the book clubs I'm in uses. And you think about like self-reflection with this. Did you like it? The other question, would you recommend it, is very different. Just because you like something doesn't mean you're going to pass it to someone else, right? Doesn't mean you're going to bring it to a book exchange like that's happening in the chill out room. So it might be your personal preference that you enjoyed it, but you're like, don't really know anyone I'd recommend that to. When you were reading, did you learn something from that? Did you learn something because it was a technical book? Did you learn something about technique because of the narrative that was being told? And then thinking through who the audience is. Why does this book exist? Who wrote it? What are they trying to convey? What message are they giving? If you think through reading it or listening to it, would it actually be action-packed enough that it could become so story-driven that it could become a movie or a series? What would that look like? And then if you have like maybe some critiques of it, how could it be better? So those are some ways that you could kind of guide that. So I'll leave each of these up if people want to take pictures, but I will have these slides available. So one of the book clubs that meets every single month, and they do the alternating style where it's narrative and then technical, narrative and then technical. This is a series of books that we've read several years ago. And this book club's been running for multiple years now. So you'll see a lot of book lists coming up. And same thing, I'll have these slides available. This is another section of books, so we're not even yet at our current books, but you'll see sometimes we do things in a bit of a thematic style, where we're looking at Phoenix Project, Unicorn Project, DevOps, so doing like a lot of Gene Kim books. Sometimes we're doing like hardware-themed things. And then this is where you can see what are we reading right now. So you'll see Cryptonomicon over there. That is our current book for this book club. So if you're like, I love that book, or I haven't read it, but I've heard about it, or I've read it a while ago, and you want to join that book club, let me know. And then our next book will be Exploding the Phone, so more of a technical one. The other book club, like I said, is almost entirely fiction. And so every now and then you'll see a nonfiction mixed in there, but that is by request because people were like, we want to discuss this. And we choose all the books for the full year. So you'll see that there's a lot of things that say upcoming because those are all of our 2025 reads. So you'll see The Moon is a Harsh Mistress over there. And that is our current book that is going to be discussed in February. And you may have seen like QR codes and like a little bookmark for DEF CON Book Club. So this is the reading list from that club. So we're reading all these books. We're discussing them. What are we learning? Our first theme that I'd like to think through is called Keep the Receipts. So you think about the investigations that have to happen in order to compose these books. So think about like going back to Cuckoo's Egg. It is really one of the original DFIR books, right? So Digital Forensics Incident Response. How do you figure out the proofs that you need? How are you trying to solve this issue that you've seen? How are you trying to solve this incident? And how do you keep that data? And you'll see this time and time again. You'll see this in Darkwire. You'll see this in Tracers in the Dark. You'll see this in This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends. So I have a whole kind of stack of books over here that fit into that theme that really revolve around the idea of keeping the receipts, keeping the data, being able to trace back that puzzle and find out how and why it happened. I really like this quote from Cuckoo's Egg where you're thinking through, without even seeing this, how could you solve this? How can you uncover secrets? Our second theme is use it or lose it. So I don't have the books faced out because I want their spines to face you all, but if you were to come around on this side, you would see that there are Post-its on some of the books, and those are more of the technical books, because those are areas that I've flagged for myself of, ooh, go back and try this, or try this again, try this a second time. And I think it is really imperative for wherever you are in your career journey that you have a series of goals for what you want to know and what you want to learn next, and then how you will do those things. And technical books can be really helpful, as of course can various sites and YouTube videos, et cetera. It depends on how you learn. But I really like kind of referring to the physical book. I'm like looking at the steps. I'm thinking through, well, how would I make modifications on this? And I included 2 examples where the authors actually included examples just on their website, so anyone can access these. So OSINT Techniques and the code book both have examples online. So one involves a series of 10 cipher challenges. Super fun. Simon Singh sent it as a challenge for anyone to complete. They were all solved within 1 year of publication of that book, so you cannot win any prizes anymore. But same thing with this, like use it or lose it. You yourself can go through and practice those things and work on that skill set. With the OSINT techniques, it is, I don't know if anyone was here earlier for the OPSEC talk, OPSEC for Grandma. It is chock full of details about how to protect your personal security, and you could think through like, hey, what family members do I have that need this information, or what can I do better about my personal digital footprint? And he literally walks you through step by step all these different things to do, and he publishes new volumes like every other year, and then he does trainings with like Police Academy, FBI, et cetera. So it's really, really detail focused, and he has another book that's called Privacy. And it has a kind of longer title, but it's focused more on privacy. And that also, same thing, has a whole bunch of details about how you can protect your personal privacy, reduce that digital footprint. So our third and final theme really focuses on the fiction books, and I found this to be a recurring theme across the books that we choose. And I think it fits in really nicely with the ethos of ShmooCon. We're here because we're building community, right? Hopefully you met someone new this weekend. If you haven't, my challenge that I would issue to you is to meet someone new that you've never met before, that you've never talked to before, form those new connections, and continue to build your community. There are so many people across this room, across any of the other rooms, that are invested in the community, and you can also do that and get involved with other conferences. We know Shmoo's ending, that is very sad, but it doesn't mean that the sense of community that you feel here has to end. And so you can think about, how can I get involved in other conferences, like some of the Vegas Hacker Summer Camp ones? How can I get involved with maybe a local B-Sides, et cetera? And you'll see in these books that are building these fiction universes, a lot of it is this struggle, right? So you're pushing back against inequities, you're pushing back against issues of survival, especially when you're talking about like terraforming a planet, and you're thinking about, how can I survive this? And obviously, like, you could pull that into like a bigger metaphor for your life. Maybe that's not like, you're not trying to terraform Mars right now, but you have your own personal struggles, and you have friends who have their own personal struggles. So how can we continue to build resilience and be there for each other as a community? I'm a big believer in the idea of, if you ever have sorrows or troubles, you should share those with your support and community system, because when we do that, we divide the troubles. They're less focused on you being able to solve them as a solo person. And then when you share your joys, you're magnifying and multiplying the joy. So it's kind of dividing sorrows and troubles by having more shoulders to lean on, and sharing joy whenever you have that to magnify it. And I think you see that across all of these. If you see me later, you'll see that I'm wearing a Sanctuary Moon t-shirt, which is a fiction TV show that is in a fiction book. It's part of the Murderbot series. It is a fantastically sarcastic, beautiful, amazing series. And they're novellas, so they're like less than 100 pages. So I would really welcome you to join our book club. I've got a QR code. I've got little bookmarks. When I post these slides, you will see that there's a little fun thing at the end. So I have a Never Have I Ever reading edition, but we do not have time for that. But I will really encourage you to kind of look through these. Some of them are quite fun. And happy reading and enjoy. Thank you.